Welcome to Finding Holiness, where we delve into timeless Torah wisdom, revealing the sacred in everyday moments. Join us on a journey to elevate your spirituality and discover holiness in every aspect of life. I'm your host, Rabbi David Kadosh, and together, let's embark on a path of spiritual exploration. I hope you enjoy this next episode. And we are live. Baruchim Habayim, Chodesh Tov. Tonight, Rosh Chodesh Kislev, one of 2 days of Rosh Chodesh. We're excited. We're less than 1 month away from Hanukkah. We're not talking about Hanukkah tonight. We're talking about the Parashat HaShavua on not our normal night. On Thursday night, we are 1 day early this week. And we're going to talk about, of course, the Parashat HaShavua, Parashat Toledot. I was asked to have the shiur sponsor, shiur in memory of Rachel Bat Mercedes Ben Chaim Zichrona Ivracha and Pinchas Friedman Zichrona Ivracha. So the words of tonight will say will be the Ulu Nishmatam Amen Kiniratzon. In this week's parasha, of course, we have the birth of Yaakov and Esav and the very famous blessing that is given to them. Beiten lecha Elokim mital hashamayim mishpanei haaretz. We're going to read it in this week's parasha, but somewhere embedded in all that is a story that seems to be out of place. It's not talked about often, and there's very deep significance that is going on with this story. We read about the Avot and their efforts to dig wells in the ground. The Plishtim, who were a long-time enemy of the Jewish people, even from back then, they opposed to the digging of these wells, and they filled them up with dirt. And Elimelech, who was the Melech Pelishtim, he tries to, and all of his people tried stealing the water from these wells. Eventually, Yitzhak succeeded in digging a well flowing, devoid of any controversy. So this is how the Torah tells us this pasuk. Vayeshev Yitzhak, Yitzhak returned. Vayachpor et be'erot hamayim. He started digging wells. Asher chaferu b'mei Abraham aviv, wells that were dug by his father Abraham. But the Plishtim, they filled them up. After Abraham died, okay, let's fill them up. So he called these wells the same names that Abraham called them. Then they proceed to dig more wells. They start digging, the servants of Yitzhak start digging by the canal, and they find Be'er Ma'im Chaim, this well of living waters. We're going to get into that. So the Plishtim, the residents of Gerar, tell the shepherds of Yitzhak, hey, that water's ours. What are you doing? Move. So he calls the name of this well, Isaac. Esek is like strife, because there was a fight going on. And they dug another well. And they fought it. Oh, that's our water again. And he called this well Sitna. Finally, Yitzchak got up and went to a different place. He dug another well. This time there was no fights. And he called the name of this well Rehovot. And he said, now Hashem has granted us this ample space, and we will be fruitful in the land. End of story. So first of all, the Rabbeinu Bechaye has something beautiful, nice little idea here, where he says that the reason why the Plishtim, filled in the wells was because they were jealous. They didn't want Yitzchak to go and use the water to give his animals, to irrigate his fields, and therefore they closed it all up. Yitzchak got stronger because Hashem protects Yitzchak. And he dug more. He called them the same names as Abraham called him. Look what he says. He did this. He didn't give him new names. He did this in honor of his father. And he says, the fact that the Torah tells us this, like why is the Torah? He says, why does the Torah tell us that he called him the same names of the father? It's a relevant piece of information. You got to tell me that he called it the same names of his father. It's actually a zechut for Yitzchak. He says that a person, we learn from here, that person should not deviate from the path of his father. What his father left for him, in place for him, especially if your father is Abraham Avinu, that's something you have to take into consideration. Even the names of the well, which he had every right to call it whatever he wanted to, he didn't want to, leave or change what his father did. But then look at the kicker he says at the end. He says, Ve'ulai, maybe, mipene ze lo nishtana shemo, kemo she'ar ha'avot. Maybe that's why Yitzhak was the only one of the avot that didn't have his name changed. All the other avot, Avraham was Avraham, okay, and Yaakov turned to Israel. So he said, "Vezo midah keneged midah." This is a measure for measure. Yitzchak didn't want to deviate and change what his father did, so he kept his name. Okay, Ken Pirush Gaon. So the Gaon explains. So I thought it was a nice, cute little thought. Being rewarded midah keneged midah as a result of not changing the names of his father. But there's a lot more going on over here. What these wells represent, what is the significance of it, and again, what it means for us. So the Ramban Nachmanides expresses his amazement at the fact that the Torah goes into such details about these wells, and on the surface, again, it doesn't appear that this makes any difference in our lives. What does this come to teach us? So it says the Ramban that these three wells that Yitzchak dug correspond to the three Batei Mikdash, the three temples. The first two wells would be Isaac and Sitna. They were mired in controversy. There were fights going on between the shepherds of Gerar and the shepherds of Yitzchak. And those two wells correspond to the first two Bet HaMikdash that were destroyed as a consequence for the Averot, the sins that the Jewish people have done. And the third well, that's what's called the Rechovot, which was free of controversy. There was no fight. That corresponds to the third Bet HaMikdash, which is going to endure, le'olam va'ed, for all eternity when it gets built. B'mira b'yameinu. And if you actually, to reinforce this idea, the Gemara Masechet Pesachim says that the Bet HaMikdash lo ke'Abraham shekatuv bohar, that it's not going to be like Abraham called it a mountain, because that's when Abraham went on the mountain where the Bet HaMikdash is going to be built. Velo ke'Yitzchak shekatuv bo sadeh, not like Yitzchak who visited the site and referred to it as a sadeh, ela ki Yaakov shekaru bait, but rather like Yaakov who called it a home, a bait. That's the Bet HaMikdash. And here's the Al-Shich, beautiful insight. He says, our enemies gained control of the first Bet HaMikdash corresponding to Abraham. Okay, the first Bet HaMikdash was Abraham, because Abraham had a son, Ishmael, who was evil. They also gained control of the second Bet HaMikdash corresponding to Yitzhak, because Yitzhak begot Esav. That was one of his evil sons. The third Bet HaMikdash, which is going to be built in the merit of Yaakov Avinu, okay, that one, Yaakov's descendants, Shevatim, were unblemished. They're all equally kadosh, all equally holy, and therefore the third Bet HaMikdash is going to endure. So what can we say right now? That the three wells that Yitzchak dug right now also correspond to the three avot. Concerning Ishmael, who was the son of Abraham Avinu, the pasuk says, "Vayeshev b'midbar v'hirove kashat." Ishmael was a man who dwelt in the desert, and he became an archer. And Rashi says, what was he doing in the desert? Haya yoshev b'midbar umlastam et ha'ovrim hu shneimar yado bakol. He was living in the desert, and he would rob anybody that was walking by. He would sneak and rob them. Anyone that passed by. Shneimar yado bakol. His hand was everywhere. I mean, literally everywhere he was taking things. So the first well, which corresponds to Abraham, was called Esek, which is derived from the word ashak, which is to exploit. So the controversy over this well reflected that what Ishmael was robbing and exploiting other human beings. Okay? The second well that Yitzchak dug corresponds to Yitzchak, and who fathered Esav. Esav's, we know that the ministering angel of Esav is known as the Samech Mem. We call him the Samech Mem. It's actually Samech Mem Aleph Lamed. That's the name of the angel. And the more common name for this angel is the Satan, the Satan. Okay? And this Satan denounces and slanders Bnei Israel and Shamayim, and he's acting as a prosecutor, and that's how Hashem brings punishment to Am Yisrael and the world. So the controversy over the second well stemmed from Esav, and therefore Yitzhak called it Sitna. Sitna from the same shoresh as Satan. Even the Rabbeinu Bechaye says, "V'yesh lecha litoreh b'shem habe'er hazeh, ki sham nimsa Satan, shehu saro shel Esav." There in that be'er, that's when the Satan was there, and that's why he called it Sitna. The third well, which Yitzchak dug, which corresponds to Yaakov Avinu, the third of the Avot, he's the Bechir Avot, the elite of the fathers. Okay, his offspring we said were unblemished, and therefore the well corresponding to Yaakov was free of controversy. He called it Rehovot. Rehovot, meaning Hashem has given us, Rachav in Hebrew means wide. It's wide, so ample space. And we will be fruitful in the land, reflecting the fact that Yaakov was fruitful and he merited a lot of beracha. He merited to be the father of very righteous children, Hashem's 12 tribes. Okay, so far so good. Says the Baal Shem Tov a very, very deep idea. And he addresses the reason why our Avot just spent a lot of their time digging wells. And remember, they didn't have machinery back then. Digging wells was digging wells. Like, you can imagine what it took. Okay, I believe even there's a tourist attraction in Beersheba called Abraham's Well. I don't know if it's actually the well. I don't know. It's a big tourist attraction, and it's a monstrous well, like literally huge. And if this is indeed the well that Abraham dug, wow, kol hakavod to him. Anyway, says the Baal Shem Tov. He says that the practical significance is that what they tried to do was to penetrate the material blockage, the veil on earth, in order to uncover what is divine, the divine spark that's concealed within. The Avot wanted to reveal the Torah, which is represented by water, mayim, even in the lowliest, most material places, represented by afar, dust or dirt. So each of the Avot had their own unique ways and characteristics to accomplish this. But after Abraham left the world and he passed away, the Plishtim covered up the water that he had uncovered with dust, with dirt. The Plishtim represent, in Kabbalistic literature, this is very famous, the Plishtim represent the klipot, the covers, the curtains, the blockage. The Goliath, who was a Plishti, okay, was what David referred to him as the Arel, the person who's uncircumcised, because an Arel is a blockage. Okay, so the person who's uncircumcised means there's a cover to the Ever. In essence, that's what the Plishtim are. So they're the negative forces that returned to power after Abraham Avinu passed away. But comes Yitzhak, and he insisted, no, I got to go reveal this again. So he restored the wells for future generations, and that's what allowed the Jewish people the opportunity to come close to Hashem and get even on the smallest level. In fact, the Sfat Emet says, in the name of his father, that the Avot dug wells in order to remove all the external earthly layers to find the hidden light, the hidden illumination that is found in the water down below. The Baal Shem Tov also quotes the Shem Mishmur quotes the Baal Shem Tov that not only must we, as studiers of the Torah, strive to reveal what the underlying meanings of the water found in the wells throughout the world, but as well we have to dig down deep in our own personal self, within man itself. Sometimes we have to drill and uncover all the other things that are blocking our internal light. So just like the earth needed to be removed in order to reveal the water below, okay, so too man's material aspects and interests must be overcome to reveal our own heart's desires. And that's the idea. The digging of the wells is a po'el dimyon. It's a symbolic gesture to future generations, that we will now have the power to overcome any blockage, to overcome anything that is blocking us to reach that potential, to reach that light, and the idea and the goal is to reveal these things. We actually see this play out in really from the start of creation. On the third day of creation, says the Sfat Emet, something unbelievable happened. The pasuk tells us, "Vayomer Elohim." I'm quoting from Parashat Bereshit. "Vayomer Elohim," God said, "Yikavu hamayim mitachat hashamayim." Let the waters be gathered beneath the heavens. El makom echad, one place. Veteraya yabasha, and that's how the let the dry land appear. Vayichen, and so it was. So we're at the beginning of creation. The whole world was water. That's all it was. We know there was water because the opening pasuk says, "Bereshit bara Elokim et hashamayim ta'az," right? So there was already water before going on. Now Hashem on the third day said to gather this water into one space, to the oceans that we have now, so that dry land would appear. Veruach Elohim merachefet al penei hamayim, the Spirit of God hovered over the surface of the waters. So Midrash says that HaKadosh Baruch Hu created the world based on the Torah. En mayim ela Torah. The Gemara Masechet Baba Kama says there's no water. Whenever you see water, it's an allusion to Torah. That's generally the rule. In many ways, of course, we've spoken before in the past that water, it always flows downwards. Torah is something that is found in the most humble of humans. That's where the Torah is able to be retained. At the beginning of the creation, the entire earth was covered by water, and therefore the light of the Torah filled the world without obstruction, without concealment. That's how the world was created. Hashem looked into the Torah, created the world, and what was just this one giant ball of spiritual water, or maybe it was physical water also, but it was just water. But the purpose of the creation is that down here on earth, the light of Hashem is concealed. And only in this way, with the concealment of Hashem's light, man now has the freedom to choose between good and evil. And therefore, Hashem said, let the water gather in certain areas to allow the dry land to appear. In other words, the water of Torah was to remain concealed and covered up within the earth. So outwardly, on surface level, the dust of the earth or the ground covers up the water. That's clear. But man's job is to come here on this earth, dig up through the material, dig up the earthly layers in order to reveal the light of the Torah, that divine spark that is concealed within. So this is the significance of the Avot, digging up the physical earth. As the Pasuk says that we quoted, that they dug up Be'er Mayim Chaim, that they wanted to reveal the well of fresh water. That's what Yitzhak dug up. The divine light that is concealed beneath the levels of earth. The Plishtim wanted the opposite. The Plishtim's mission, Plishtim representing all the forces of impurity, they filled him up with dirt. They wanted to prevent the divine light from shining through or from being revealed. So they found the Be'er Mayim Chaim that Abraham dug up, and they covered it until Yitzhak came again and paved the way for all Bnei Yisrael to continue throughout future generations. That's what the Sfat Emet says is the gist of what is happening over here. Why did Yitzhak fail the first two times? Why is it only on attempt number 3 was he successful to dig up this well without any controversy? So to answer this, you have to say, again, what is the tool that is required to dig up the ground and the earthly elements in the world to find that Be'er Mayim Chaim? So it has to be a Torah. It has to be the Torah in which the world was created, okay, including the material elements. That's what's necessary in digging up the elements. It allows man to spiritually drill through the world and uncover those holy sparks. Torah is compared to water, so therefore if I engage in Torah, I reveal the waters concealed beneath the dust of the earth. Says the Zohar HaKadosh, quoting a Mishnah that we're all familiar with, Al Shalosha Devarim Ha'olam Omed. The world stands on 3 pillars. Ala Torah, Al Avodah, Val Gemilut Chasadim. The Torah stands on Torah, service, and loving kindness. Torah, who's Torah? Torah is Yaakov. Avodah, Da Yitzchak, Gemilut Chasadim, Da Abraham. Torah is Yaakov. Avodah, service is Yitzhak, and Gemilut Chasadim, Chesed, is Abraham Avinu. So why only the third well? Well, simple, because the third well, like we said, corresponds to Yaakov Avinu. And Yaakov Avinu is the Torah. He's the pillar of the Torah. Once that was dug, with the Torah, the study of the Torah using to dig through and find the Be'er Mayim Chayim was revealed. And it was not filled back up with dirt. It remained free of controversy. So only by means of Torah study can a person uncover the Be'er Mayim Chayim, the well of fresh water. R Pinchas Friedman, who tonight's shiur is from, has, again, an incredible connection to how man was created. This idea is found in exactly how man was created. HaKadosh Baruch Hu, when he created man's body, formed man's body, he made us, human beings, out of a mixture of dust from the earth and water from the depths of the earth. The Torah tells us in the second chapter of Sefer Bereshit, Vayitzer Adonai Elohim et Adam afar min ha'adama. And Hashem, God, formed the man from soil of the earth. Okay, so we have soil in us. Vayipach be'apav nishmat chayim. He blew into his nostrils the soul of life. Vahi Adam lenevesh chayam. We became a living soul. And Rashi says, why did God have to? What is the afar min ha'adama? Why did he have to do this? So tzavar afaro mikol adama me'arba ruchot. Actually, what ended up happening is that God took earth from all over on the world to create Adam. Shebekol makom she'amut sham teheh kolato likvura. Because when Adam passes away, or when man passes away after 120 years, the earth will accept his body for burial because that's where we come from, right? So it's not like I was taken from earth from Australia, but I died in the United States, so I can't be buried in the United States. No, the earth that God used to create us came from all over the globe, and therefore, wherever we are buried, it's as if we belong there. Before God created man's body, he first irrigated the earth with waters from the depths. HaKadosh Baruch, and that's how we needed soil with the water. The pasuk says, "Ve'ed ya'aleh min ha'aretz," a mist ascended from the earth, "Ve'hishkat kol pei ha'adama," and watered the whole surface of the soil. Again, Rashi says, "Le'inyan briyato shel adam he'ela te'om ve'hishka inyanam." In order to create man, Rashi says, he raised the waters of the deep, filled the clouds with water to saturate the soil. And the man was created like one who needs a dough. It's like Hashem was going like this, like you're making challah. This is what was happening. And he adds flour to water to make a dough. So there to here, the world was saturated with this mist, with this water, and then Vayitzer, God formed man. Now, what exactly this means and the true significance of God forming us with this dough-like material, we're not going to get into that. We don't know how God works and how exactly he created us. But why HaKadosh Baruch Hu chose to form us with a mixture of soil and earth, soil from the earth and water from the depths? Well, we kind of just answered the question, if you think about it, from what we said before in the name of the Sfat Emet. Man's body, or our body, was meant to combine water from the depths, which is Be'er Mayim Chayim, the same water that was dug up by Abraham and Yitzhak, together with the soil from the earth, which is meant to conceal and obscure the sparks. And this combination gives us freedom of choice. It gives us free will, that we could strive to look for the light, or, God forbid, leave it concealed. That's a free choice that we have. So just like every Jew must dig deep through the material existence of the world to reveal the Be'er Mayim Chayim, this living well that is beneath the surface, so too we have to penetrate through the earthly layers of our body to reveal the divine spark that is concealed within each one of us. And those are the words of the Shem Yishmuel, the name of his father. So when Hashem, on Har Sinai, that the Gemara tells us, he takes a mountain, and he says, either you're going to accept the Torah, or Sham teheh kivuratchem, or the mountain will fall on you and you will die. That's what the Gemara Masechet Shabbat. The Gemara asks, Tosfot asks a question. It says, why is it necessary to threaten them in this manner? Why pick up the mountain and say, either you accept or you die? His question is, because they already said Naaseh v'nishma. Jewish people already said, we will do and we will listen, which is the ultimate form of acceptance. So why are you threatening them with death? So we can say that Hashem was actually teaching them a crucial lesson, one that the future generations, would appreciate or need to appreciate, why it's so important to receive the Torah. Like we said, the tool that is required to dig through the layers of the soil and the earth to reveal that Be'er Mayim Chaim is the study of Torah. HaKadosh Baruch Hu created the world with, created the elements of this world, which obscure and protect the deep waters. And the only way to uncover that water is through the study of the Torah. And Torah is compared with water. So the holiness of the Torah has the ability to penetrate through the dust, through the earth, revealing the divine spark. So now, the Gemara also says, we're going to get to the answer soon. Gemara says, Kacha Kadosh Baruch Hu Amar Lahem Yisrael, Banai barati yetzer hara, my children, I've created an evil inclination, ubarati lo Torah tavlin, but I've also created a Torah as its remedy, the antidote. If you want to know how to defeat the yetzer hara, study Torah. V'matem oskim b'Torah, and if you do study Torah, en atem nimsarim biyado, then you will not fall prey to it. So yetzer hara, the evil inclination, actually intensifies the element of dirt, of dust, the element of afar within man's being, as if to cover up the element of water, the divine spark. But when we engage in Torah, when we study Torah, we can dig through the bodily human afar and reveal the source of the water, the Be'er Mayim Chaim that is within us. So HaKadosh Baruch Hu takes up a mountain, he lifts up the mountain and he hovers it over the heads of Am Yisrael in a threatening manner. What does the mountain represent? The mountain represents the soil and the dust of the earth that is obscuring the presence of the water. And he tells Am Yisrael, if you accept the Torah, then everything is good. Why? Because the Torah is the proper tool, is the only tool that you can have to penetrate the earthly body and reveal that true source, that divine spark within human being that we have. So if you accept it, great. Ve'im lav, but if not, if you refuse to accept the Torah, you're going to lack that tool. You're going to lack that digging, act or implement, and therefore sham teku atchem. That's where you're going to be buried. Meaning that the divine spark inside of you is going to be buried, and you'll never be able to get it out because you don't have a Torah to dig it up. And your human body is just obscuring this precious light that is found inside of you. So what do we see from here? That a Jew actually always has to remember that HaKadosh Baruch Hu formed our bodies from the dust of the earth, which he kneaded with waters from the depth, and everybody has that divine spark inside of them, unique to his neshama, which is concealed by the body. And it's our obligation not to fall into the category of, I don't want to study the Torah, I don't want to be a part of the Torah lifestyle, because then, ve'im lav sham tekevur atchem, this is where you're going to be buried. This is going to be your burial spot, and then everything remains concealed. But rather, we have to toil, we have to labor in our study of the Torah, no matter what our daily occupation is, no matter what type of work that we do, we have to dedicate time to study Torah, and by doing so, we will merit to follow in the footsteps of the Avot HaKedoshim, who dug up the earth with the power of the Torah and uncovered the Be'er Mayim Chaim. There is this concept that of the upper waters and the lower waters. Chachamim tell us that the lower waters are still crying, because they want to be in the presence of Hashem. Okay, what am I talking about, the lower waters and the upper waters? On the second day of creation, Hashem separated the upper waters and the lower waters with the rakia, which we translate as a firmament. Those waters that remain below the rakia, the earthly waters, the waters that we call our lakes and our oceans, okay, are crying because they're not close to Hashem. They want to be close. Why am I down below? And their source for how do we know they're crying? Because the Torah tells us with regards to a korban, Bechol korban minchatecha takriv b'melach timlach. Every korban mincha, which was a meal offering made with flour and oil, there needs to be salt. Velo tashbit melach berit elokecha ma'michatecha. You may not discontinue the salt of Hashem's covenant, meaning you always have to have. So Rashi says, what's melach berit? What is the salt of the covenant? Shabrit keruta la melach misheshet yemei bereshit. Rashi says, there was a special pact and covenant made with salt from the 6 days of creation. Why? Shehuftechu hamayim hatachtonim likarev b'mizbeach b'melach v'nisu hamayim b'hav. Because the lower waters were promised to be offered on the mizbeach in the form of salt, because the oceans consist of salt, and as well as the water libations, the pouring of the water by the Mizbeach on the holiday of Sukkot. Why is this the case? Again, we quote Rabbeinu Bechaye. Mayim atachtonim nikru mayim bochim. The oceans are crying waters. Velama nikru mayim bochim. Why crying? Ki b'sha'ah shechalak HaKadosh Baruch Hu chilek HaKadosh Baruch Hu tamayim. When God separated the waters, natan elu lemala ve'elu lemata. Hitchilu mayim tachtonim bochim. They start crying. Amru, they said, Oy lanu shelo zachinu la'alot lemala. Woe to us that we're not zochet to be up near God. Liot keruvim leyotzenu. He created us and we're down here. Amar lahem HaKadosh Baruch Hu, God tells them, Ho'il velichvodi asiten kol kach. Since you are put there for my honor, en lahem reshut lemayim ha'elyonim lomar shira ad shitru reshut mikem. You should know something, he says. He says the lower waters. That the upper waters, they cannot sing in praise until they get permission from you. We'll see what this means. Not only that, velo od, ela she'atidin atem likarev al gabe ha'mizbeach b'melach v'nisu hamayim. In the future, you are going to be offered on the mizbeach in the form of salt, in the form of water libations, with pure honor on the holiday of Sukkot. So, before we elaborate on this, there is one problem, a big problem. One of the principles of faith that we have is the concept of Kadosh, Kadosh, Kadosh Adonai Tzevaot, Melo Kol Haaretz Kevodo, which means that the glory of Hashem is Melo Kol Haaretz, is everywhere in the world. So what is the basis of the lower waters lamenting and saying, we want to be in the presence of the King? Even here on earth, we're in the presence of the King. Melo Kol Haaretz Kevodo. We're still in the presence of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And since it was HaKadosh Baruch Hu's desire and decree that they remain below, question number 2 is, how dare they question the decision of God and request that, he altered the order of creation? That's exactly what they were saying. It's not fair. Fix it, God. We don't want to be down here. So this is what we can say. Again, all connected to what we've spoken about. The upper waters, are the elements of Torah that we said, En Torah ela b'mayim. The elements of Torah, HaKadosh Baruch Hu brought down to Bnei Israel from the heavens at the time of Matan Torah. The lower waters are the elements of the Torah and the holy sparks that are concealed in the depths of the earth that is covered up. Concerning the lower waters, HaKadosh Baruch Hu decreed during their creation, like we said, Yikavu amayim el makom echad v'teraya yabasha. Let these waters gather and let the dry land appear. Therefore, the lower waters cry and they pray to Hashem that they should merit to be revealed above ground. They want man to utilize them in the service of Hashem, just like a man utilizes the upper waters of studying Torah. But look what God's response is. God says, Amalem HaKadosh Baruch Hu, Hoil velichvodi asiten kol kach, since it's for my honor, the upper waters have no permission to sing praise until they get permission from you. In other words, the whole purpose of giving the Torah, which is the upper waters, the whole purpose of giving the Torah to Bnei Israel was so that they could utilize them in the form of Torah study and mitzvot performance to penetrate the earthly material down below, to reveal the sparks of Kedusha, the sparks of illumination, of divine illumination here, which is in the lower waters. So what studying Torah and performing mitzvot are actually doing it's like we said, it's the tool needed to dig up and to unearth the treasures that are concealed between the physical structure of the earth. So the upper waters actually serve the lower waters. So Hashem says, "En lahem reshut lamayim elyonim lomar shira ad shitlu reshut bikem." The upper waters have no permission. They're not permitted to utter song until they receive permission from you. Hashem provided us with the parts of the Torah represented by the upper waters so that we can reveal the elements down here below that are concealed within the earth. And therefore, only after Bnei Israel have sweated and have worked hard to dig through these earthly layers to reveal the lower waters, that's when the upper waters can sing their song. Only then will they be able to complete their task. And what else does God say? He concludes his message to the lower waters. You are going to be placed on the Mizbeach in the form of salt. Hashem is conveying to them how dear man's efforts are to him. Human beings, we are physical creatures of flesh and blood. It's not easy to dig through this material, both physically, digging up a well, and actually emotionally and spiritually. I think it's easy to fight your Yetzirah. It's easy to find that spark inside every person. It's not. People struggle with this all the time. So HaKadosh Baruch Hu says, you worked your whole life, you struggled, you sweated to find this light, to dig up these wells, to reveal the Be'er Mayim Chayim. You sacrificed. I'm going to take what's part of you, and I'm going to sacrifice it on my Mizbeach. I'm going to take the salt that is found, and I'm going to put it on the Mizbeach. And I'm going to take that water that you dug up, and I'm going to use it as a libation, as a Nisuch HaMayim. We'll end with the following point. Maybe this is why, when we want to purify ourselves, it's done in a mikveh, which is filled with water. I want to read for you the Sefer HaChinuch in Mitzvah 175, who explains how the mikveh works. And you probably, in general, many people probably wonder how a mikveh works. Okay, like why does it work? Okay, I know what a mikveh is. It's a body of water, a natural body of water. But why? So look what the Sefer HaChinuch says. Ubetam hamayim sheitaru kol tameh. The reason why water has the ability to purify anyone who is impure. Achshov al tzad hapshat. I'm going to tell you simply. He calls it simply. Ki ha'inyan hu kedeh sheyira'eh ha'adam et atzmo achar ha'tevila ke'ilu nivra be'ota sha'ah. That when a person dips himself in the mikveh, he must see as if he is a newly created being. Kemo shehaya ha'olam kulo mayim terem heyot bo adam. Just like the earth was only water before man was created. Remember we said that the earth was only water before man was created. So man dips himself in water and he comes out as a new creation. Kemo shekatuv veruach Elohim merachefet al penei hamayim. And he must imagine and think in his heart, just like his body has been renewed, so too my actions are going to be switched to. Right? A lot of times people dip in the mikveh because they've sinned. This is a new start for them. We often do it before the high holidays because it's a new year and I want to change. I want to do teshuvah. He'll correct his ways and cling to Hashem, the ways of God. So why can't I dip in my swimming pool? Why can't I fill up a blow-up swimming pool here and just start and take a hose? Why can't I do that? Well, he explains. This is why a person cannot. That's why the Chachamim said that you cannot immerse yourself and purify yourself in a vessel. Okay, well, a vessel can be a swimming pool, anything that you make or pour water in. Rak b'mayim chayim, it has to be living waters. O mekunasim she'em al karka ve'lo bekli mikol makom. You can't just take up a blow-up pool and fill it up with a hose. Kedei latet el libo b'machshava, so that he understands in his mind ke'ilu ha'olam kulo mayim. The water must be water from the heavens. that everything is water. והוא נתחדש בעלותו מהן כמו שאמרנו. ואם יהיו המים בכלי, if the water was in a blow-up swimming pool, or אפילו עברו על כלי, or even if it wasn't a blow-up swimming pool, it was transferred from a כלי and poured into something else, לא ייתכן העניין הזה שאמרנו מחשבת הטובל. He's never going to think that he's surrounded in the world of water. כי יש גבול אל כל אשר בו בכלי שהוא מעשה ידי אדם. Because a kli is man-made. A kli is not God-made. Well, yes, it contains elements that are all God-made, of course. But who? Somebody built that swimming pool. Someone built the hose. Someone built the bucket that you're using to pour, and therefore you're like enclosed. It's not something that is open. He would never think that the whole world is water. Like in the beginning, if he went into a mikveh. It's unbelievable. And this relates back to that final well that Yitzhak dug, which he called Rechovot, ample space. The one that was never going to be, that was not concealed again and recovered by the Plishtim, because that's the final one. The Bet HaMikdash comes when Hashem's glory is spread throughout the world, and everybody will see it. Everyone will realize it. Rechovot, that's the third Bet HaMikdash. So at that point in creation, to get to that point of the creation, is our study with Torah. And when a person immerses himself with the water, with that intent, he connects himself with the internal well of water. He removes any earthly layer, anything that was spoiling his neshama, was acting as a pigam, detracting him, pulling him apart. This is what was dug up, and now I dip in the mikveh whole, and everything around me is water. And that, in essence, Rabotai, is our mission. This is the message of this whole parasha. Otherwise, why do I need to know that the Avot dug up wells? There's no one else that dug up wells. Everyone, the wells was common. There were wells everywhere. I need to know about these fights. There was something deep going on over there. There was something that was going to last for generations. And as much as the Goyim, the Plishtim, spend all of their life trying to conceal that light from us, we see that every day, even in the 21st century, how much they want to just pull away any little inkling of spirituality and religion from our lives, because to them it's nonsense. Our job is to fight that. Our job is to dig through that material blockage, and the only way to do that is in our engagement of Torah and mitzvot. That's the only way that we'll be able to reveal the Be'er Mayim Chayim and Bezrat Hashem with this holy, precious tool that was given to us. We'll be able to overcome the Yetzer. We'll overcome the blockage, and Bezrat Hashem will be zochet to the third Bet HaMikdash, the Bet HaMikdash of Rechovot, the Bet HaMikdash of Yaakov Avinu, who was Kulo Kadosh Bechira Avot. All of his children were amazing and holy, and were able to recognize and be part of this world full of Mayim Ber Mayim Chayim. Have a wonderful night, everyone.
Aren't was man-made?
Go ahead.